Good morning, fam. This is Pastor L. Just coming to you with a rare but important video message this morning. As we enter into the fall, we're kind of recognizing that seasons are changing and that things are going to be different. A lot of our children are preparing to go back to school if they haven't already. Things are changing for parents, and so we're just kind of in this season where we realize that things are changing, times are changing, and we're really focused on time. Really good book. If you haven't read it, is Malcolm Gladwell's David and Goliath. And it's kind of an older book, maybe 3 or 4 years old, but it's a good book because he talks a little bit about how perhaps David is not much of an underdog as we've made him out to be, and conversely, Goliath is not as powerful and strong as we've made him out to be. Point in case is that the thing that actually made Goliath a giant was actually also the thing that made him weak, and that if we look at our situations and circumstances from a different perspective, perhaps the giant is not as menacing and not as difficult to deal with as we've made it out to be. And I think it's kind of the same thing when we talk about time, because we always assume that more is better and bigger is better and bigger is stronger. And so we tend to think the same thing about time. If I just had more time, if I had more than 24 hours in a day, I've had so much things to do. And if you think about it, time is probably one of the biggest giants that we have to battle with daily. I mean, time is the thing that most of us struggle with. Time is what makes pain and suffering almost unbearable. Time is what makes death difficult to deal with. Time is what we have to struggle with as humans. And David's son Solomon actually talks about this in Ecclesiastes. Most of you heard it before, maybe at a funeral. There's a time for everything. There's a season for this and a season for that. And he goes on to talk about the changing seasons. But towards the end of that little discourse, he says something interesting when he asks the question, what is it to life? And he's seeing this burden that God has placed on us. And the burden that he's talking about is a burden of time. You got to remember that God created time and God is not confined by time. And that's the one thing that we struggle with as human beings because of time. We're not all knowing and we're not, as we say, omniscient, because God is outside of time. God can see everything all at once, whereas we have to live things day by day. But then Solomon goes on to say that he's found that there is beauty in every time and in every season, and that God has planted in the human heart this gift called eternity. What Solomon is really saying is that despite our circumstances and this burden of time, God's given a gift that he's only given to humanity. No other part of his creation has this gift, and that is the gift to see past right now and to see a hope for a better future. And that's what gets us up in the morning. That's what keeps us pushing past our pain. That's what keeps us moving forward when time seems to leave us behind or time drags us on before we're ready to go. And when we're facing this giant called time, sometimes it's best for us to look into this gift that we have to be able to see past right now and to understand that the one thing that makes time such an unbearable giant is also the same thing that makes it something that knows that we can conquer it. And that is, Solomon says it in the beginning, everything has a season. So I want to encourage you this morning as we're reflecting on time and as we're all battling this giant called time, and it drags us on before we're ready and it leaves us behind when we're ready to move on. That time is a giant to deal with, but look at it from a different perspective. That Solomon says that there is beauty in every single season. So I want to invite you to think about what's beautiful about every breath that you get to take in this season, no matter what circumstances, pain, problems, situations that you're facing. Ask yourself this question: what's beautiful about this breath that I just took? What's beautiful about this moment in this season? How can I use this gift of eternity placed in my heart to see past what I'm presently dealing with and to battle this giant called time? And then on the other side of that, I want to encourage you to know that just because time is a giant doesn't mean that it's as strong as you think it is, because Solomon says everything has a season. That means that every problem, every situation, and every circumstance that you're facing has an expiration date. As the song says, trouble don't last always. Listen, we're heading into a new season, so I want you to be blessed. Think about the beauty of every breath and realize that trouble don't last always, and whatever you're dealing with does have an expiration date. Be blessed. Have a great week.